Brian, what is the Dairy Sustainability Framework?
It is just that. It's a framework that allows the dairy sector to come together and demonstrate its continuous improvement in sustainability, whether it's farming level, whether it's milk processing level. It's all about being able to demonstrate our progress, because sustainability is a journey. It's not a destination. We can always get better. And that's what it's all about getting the sector aligned globally and working together in the same direction.
Tell me a bit about the history of the organisation.
In 2009, the sector came together collaboratively to work on greenhouse gas emissions, driven by the Food and Agricultural Organisation's report on livestock's long shadow that indicated that livestock emissions globally totaled 18% of emissions. That wasn't dairy, that wasn't beef, but it was all livestock. But dairy was being criticised as being the 18% figure. Dairy had been working on greenhouse gas emissions and trying to understand where they come from and reduce those for a long time. We needed to do more, we recognised that, but this was the opportunity to bring the sector together, work together, and actually achieve a tangible outcome of reduction.
Now, the framework is governed by the Global Dairy Agenda for Action. Tell me a little bit about that organisation.
Well, the Global Dairy Agenda for Action is a collaborative group of dairy associations globally. We have come together making sure we're geographically covering the dairy sector globally, and we're working together to try and work on common issues where a joint effort, two heads are better than one type concept, actually makes us move faster and achieve greater outcomes.
So tell me about the governance of the organisation. I mean, who's in charge, who makes decisions?
This whole concept is about the dairy industry taking responsibility and demonstrating leadership. So what we've done is we've got dairy associations from around the world, not individual companies, associations. So they're representing the whole value chain in different geographies of the world. What we tend to have on the governance is the CEOs of those organisations, making sure we have a good geographic coverage of the world. We've still got a few more to get in there as we grow as an organisation, but it's all about the dairy sector coming together, developing a program for dairy.
Brian, I want to talk to you about strategy now. Where does the organisation hope to be in 5 or 10 years' time?
We have a wonderful story with dairy. It's a wonderfully nutritious product and has the opportunity to support many diets globally. And what we tend to talk about in the dairy sector is about sustainable food systems and how dairy is part of that. Now, we've got the wonderful nutrition story. Where we tend to lack at the moment is the story on sustainability. So what we're doing as a sector is actually capturing the good work. There is excellent work already going on around the globe, regardless of where they are in their sustainability journey. If they're just starting in Africa maybe, or Asia, or even parts of Australia or Europe, they're starting. That's the important thing. We want to capture that and demonstrate the difference we are making as a result of their efforts. So what the framework is doing is just that, providing a framework where we can bring dairy organisations together around the world and share information to improve, and potentially at a faster rate through the sharing of knowledge. So 5 years' time, we want to be able to demonstrate globally that dairy takes sustainability seriously, has programs in place to continuously improve and demonstrate that we are a major part of that sustainable food system.
Since 2009, how much has changed in that time?
A great deal, and that's the important thing. And the dairy sector itself recognised that you can't just deal with greenhouse gases alone. This is where we started in 2009. When you start dealing with greenhouse gas emissions, you recognise the interrelationships with other parts of the business. So actually, the Dairy Sustainability Framework covers all the spectrums of sustainability now: environmental, social and economic. And this is so important because they're so interrelated. So we've moved from a greenhouse gas focus to now having 11 key criteria that we ask our members globally to look at under those 3 key areas: the economic, the social and the environmental. Greenhouse gases is still there, an important part of the work, but we now have a much wider remit and a more responsible approach to what we're trying to deliver by dairy globally.
Brian, there are lots of schemes, certification schemes, standard schemes, that sort of thing in the agricultural world. So how is what you're doing different from that?
That's a great question, because we are different. You're absolutely right. And we are about support. This is dairy for dairy and being able to demonstrate continuous improvement. Something we do in agriculture that we, over many years, is we put wonderful programs in place, but we haven't actually put good measures in there to know if we're making a difference by the program. So what the framework is, it's actually puts a structure in for the dairy sector, gets the dairy sector aligned under some key headings. We talked about the 11 key sustainability criteria. We get the world's dairy sector working under those criteria, and then we actually quantify the impact of our efforts. And that's so important. So many other initiatives out there are about input measures, the actions you take. Where the dairy sector is coming from is we recognise this as a journey and we focus on continuous improvement. So we're not just worried about the input measures, we actually want to know what the difference is you're making as a result of those actions. And this is what we encourage our members to do, to quantify the impact of your actions. And this is so powerful.
Brian, for an individual or an organisation getting involved in the framework, what would you say is the key thing they need to bear in mind?
It's all about getting started on the journey. Some organisations have been working on sustainability for over 10 years, but some are just starting, and that doesn't matter. The framework accommodates them all. But what is fundamentally important about the whole framework and the success of the framework is being able to demonstrate as dairy our continuous improvement process. So it's so important we recognise, we quantify the difference we're making by our actions. It's not just about having a nice warm feeling in our heart that we're doing something right. It's about understanding if we are really making a difference.
So presumably there's a good business case to be made for continuous improvement anyway.
Sustainability is all about great business sense. It's about preparing your business for the future, recognising the needs and addressing those needs to make sure it's in better shape for the future. We talk in agriculture about inheriting our land from our ancestors. Actually, what we're doing is borrowing it from our grandchildren. So it's about getting your business in shape so when they take over the business, it's in great shape for them to take forward. So really, we shouldn't be doing it if it doesn't make great business sense. That's all about sustainability.
Brian, tell me about the different types of membership within the framework.
The framework, it tries to accommodate what's already out there. We're all about capturing the good work that's going on, sharing information from the membership. So we're trying to make it as easy as possible. The first level of membership is called the implementing membership, and they're organisations who are able to put in place programs on sustainability. For example, a dairy company or even a group of farmers or an individual farmer who review their situation from a sustainability perspective and are able to put programs in place and measure the outputs of those programs. The next level of membership is called the affiliate membership. And the affiliate membership is actually all about those who support what we do, but actually are not in a position to put a sustainability program in place. An example of that might be a research organisation who are developing the science that underpins the good work that the implementing member will put in place. So they're supporting us and they want to be part of what we do, but they're not in a position to put a program in place. The third level of membership is called aggregators. Now, aggregators are a new type of membership. This is how the framework is being flexible to accommodate the needs of the sector. And an aggregator is actually when a group of organisations are working to a common goal and they report through one organisation to the framework. So the framework has contact with one organisation who is acting as a responsible a point of contact for a number of organisations working on the same programs. They are effectively an implementing member, but it's more than one organisation doing the implementation.
I understand now how the organisation seems to work at a global level and the structures and so on, but what about on the ground at the local level? How is it actually put into practice?
I think this is the real powerful bit about the framework. That we're not sitting in an office in New York or London dictating to the rest of the dairy world what they should do in terms of sustainability. We want local ownership, we want local solutions to local challenges, and we know one size doesn't fit all. It's all about identifying what the issues are for your unique business situation. So at a local level, we ask our members to put in place what we call a local management group. And a management group is actually multi-stakeholder. Instead of a multi-stakeholder like many other schemes, the multi-stakeholder approach is at the London and New York level. We want the multi-stakeholder approach at the local level. So that way the business or the member identifies what the real sustainability issues are. It's not just the member telling us what they think their sustainability issues are. They've got the customers, they've got researchers, they've got NGOs sitting around the table with them discussing what are the key issues for them and prioritising the 11 criteria to meet their needs. Then they put in place programs that try and rectify the challenges they've identified. So that's what they need to do. But importantly, what we haven't done before in terms of programs in agriculture is put in place targets and KPIs. How do we know if we're making a difference? So they need to report back once a year to the Secretariat how they've performed against their own targets and KPIs. Not ones that I've implemented or the governors, it's ones they set in place. But the validation I get at the Secretariat is that that whole group has reviewed the progress, not just the member. And it's a very powerful piece of strategy that allows us to implement a continuous improvement program at local level, dealing with local issues and finding solutions to those.
So Brian, this isn't just about producers or just about manufacturers, is it?
You're absolutely right. When we were started in 2009, greenhouse gas emissions predominantly at farm level. But now we're dealing with sustainability in its true sense. It's the whole value chain, and the whole value chain can be members of this framework. So we've got farmer members, we've got milk processing members, we've got transport members, packaging, all sorts of organisations, retailers even, because we all have a role to play in the sustainability of the dairy value chain. We're all on a journey, and we're all trying to share information to improve the efficiency of the value chain right throughout the world. Regardless of where you are, where your starting point is, there's a place under the framework for all groups.
But what about an outside view from non-dairy industry people?
It's extremely important we have this outside influence on what we do. Being governed by just the dairy industry, we may miss some very important criteria we need to cover. So the governors have pulled together a multi-stakeholder advisory council, from academia to welfare to NGO, a whole mix of organisations that bring their expertise to the table to allow us to evolve the framework in the right way. Their input is so important to the success of the framework that we involve them in all the decision-making process, a very transparent process. And they're not only involved in criticising and challenging, they help us find solutions to the issues they raise also. Extremely influential group that help us evolve in the right way.